At the February Vacaville Bible Art Journaling Collaborative, I did a short demonstration on Fake It Till You Make It calligraphy, or faux calligraphy as some people call it. I went over the basic concept, which I'll do again here today, and then at the request of some who were there, I'm going to go ahead and show you how to form more of the letters of the alphabet, because I only did the first few letters. You can do this with both print and cursive lettering. The idea is to use your own handwriting and just slow it down and try and make it a little neater than you might in your quick scribbling writing, and then you can convert it to calligraphy this way. So I'm going to make a large A on my paper, and I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the concept of where to put your wider sections for making it into calligraphy. So this first stroke that I made was a downstroke, so I'm going to draw an arrow to demonstrate that. Then at the bottom here, I headed back up, and then the tail was the last downstroke. And basically you're just going to stop and form each letter individually, and then come back and think about, where did I make a downstroke? And each place that you made a downstroke, you're going to widen the line. So this was a downstroke, so I'm going to widen it, and I kind of taper the ends. And then this was a downstroke, so I'm going to widen it. I like mechanical pencils for the fact that I don't have to keep sharpening them, but this one seems to be breaking a lot today. I think the lead is pretty thin. So now I have a couple wider lines, and I can do one of two things at this point. I can either erase where the line overlapped and go ahead and close that up again where I erased, or I could just have filled in these two entirely. And I usually do my lettering in pencil first, and then I go back over with a micron pen or a Faber-Castell Pitt pen or an Illustrated Faith pen, something pigment that was also waterproof, because I like to do a lot of watercoloring around my lettering or over my lettering, and so I want something waterproof. So if I leave it as an outline, I can color in this section with another color. I just have my handy dandy Crayola Twistables here today. They are a colored pencil in twistable format, which are fun for when I'm on the road and dragging some of my art supplies with me, and I don't want to have to try and sharpen pencils. Let me do one more A. Oh, that just is gonna keep breaking. I guess I'll switch to a regular pencil. Okay, so I'm gonna do one more A, and I'm gonna widen again, and then I'm gonna fill this one in. So there you go. If you were doing an A in print, I just immediately went ahead and, because this would be a downstroke, I immediately widened the stem there, and then I would widen the down part of this. So this little piece right here is going up, so I don't widen that. Then where it starts coming down, I widen it, and where it's going back up again, I don't. And it's the same rule for pretty much any letter, so your letters just start becoming hills, climbing hills and sliding down hills, and you just fill in and widen anything where you're going down. Okay, that's the basic concept. Now let's do some letters. So there you have the lowercase cursive alphabet with a couple variations. With the B, this B comes from underneath and then has a tail going down. This B, once you make the stem, goes back up and then down. I have a variation in the R with this little extra high tail that then makes the top of the R slanted a bit heading downhill. A standard S and then this slightly different variation, and then the two kinds of T. Now let's look at our lowercase printed letters. And that is the printed lowercase. Now we can go to cursive uppercase. And there's a lot of ways to vary cursive letters, especially if you get into artistic flourishes. So what I recommend is that you get a notebook, and I have this funny one here, that you dedicate a page to a letter. And so this is my A page, and this is my B page, and so on. And basically, you just want to look at different fonts and see what the variations can be in making letters. So this is a lined page, and typically when we learned how to write our letters, we learned on a line like this with three, a solid line at the top, a solid line at the bottom, and a dotted line in the middle. And the first A here is very typically drawn with an up and down stroke and the cross in the center. So then a way you can alter letters, because most letters are built on this concept of things falling at this middle line, you can alter your letters by moving that part of the letter below the line, above the line, making it a different shape, adding some flourishes to it. Here's another changing the shape. So you kind of get an idea of some of the things I practice doing just to keep on hand for ideas. And then here's some lowercase with a big loop, with a straight line, with a short, squatty, fat circle versus a tall, skinny circle versus a very round circle. This one is almost a 3/4 of a circle. Faux calligraphy will work with a lot of these different ideas anyway. So that's just something fun. Start collecting, and when you see different shaped letters in advertising or print or someone else's artwork, you can jot it in your notebook. Print yourself a binder with some sheet protectors in it. Just print the alphabet both in capitals and lowercase, and then print it in different fonts that you like, and use it as a reference for when you are going to write something and you want a uniform look but want it to be different than your own handwriting. So I can come to this and I sort of study what is the same about the letters, and then I try to just reference this, looking back, writing slowly. Like this one, the letters are very flat. The loops are very small. They're almost oval sideways instead of tall. They have very uniform shaped loops on the loop letters. So those are things I'm looking for, commonalities in the font, so that when I go to do it in my paper, I'm kind of doing that the same. The bumps on the letters are almost more like waves rather than a full hill in this one. This is a very scripty, swirly, embellished alphabet. You can see this would be done normally with a quill pen that would give you that wider piece, but now that you know how to do the fake it till you make it, you can come up with something similar quite easily. I have several pages in here of different fonts that I enjoy looking at and using in my Bible journaling, and you could trace it if you really wanted to, but your variation, even errors, it really keeps it looking like hand lettering. So if you really want it to be perfectly uniform, you might as well just print it out off the computer and glue it into your Bible. So I hope you'll try doing some hand lettering. I'm going to start with the cursive capital letters. When you're doing A's, you always want this back line to be the heavy line. I know that some of us are taught to make our A's with 2 downstrokes like this, so I just wanted to call special attention to the fact that this back line is the foundation line of an A, and so it will always be your downstroke, or more typically is your heavier line, as if you make this in an upstroke and this in a down. So there you have the cursive capitals with some variations, and then I'll quickly do the uppercase print as well. And there's the uppercase printing. When you're forming letters, you want to keep it balanced. So depending on the other letters around this O, I may want this O to stay kind of a taller, thinner oval. Then I would go to the inside to make my calligraphy line. If I draw the same O as uniformly as I can, and I want it to be a stouter O, then I would do my calligraphy line to the outside. They're looking pretty similar. But I can vary this quite a bit by changing the shape of my O, by exaggerating the outline, by barely giving it an outline, by changing it to a taller, thinner shape, an oval shape. So you see, you can play around with it a whole lot and get a lot of different letters, and that's what a practice book is really good for. When you have letters that overlap, say our Y, if you're going to do open calligraphy, and again, you have to think about what came first. So this line came first, and then the line came over the top. So this line right in here, I would want to erase because it's underneath the line that I drew second. Does that make sense? But here, I continue with the line and then the tail crossed. Since that came after, you would leave this line. So there's several examples of that throughout the letters where they would cross over. So let me try and see here if I can show you. In the R, you would want to go ahead and erase this little piece in here because the tail is on top if you're going to leave it solid. That's why I do everything in pencil so I can come back. Same thing with the Q. The tail came last, so we would want to take that piece that's underneath off. The L is another example of where we have both. The first line goes underneath, so we'd want to erase it in there. But this second one goes over the top, so we would leave it. Here again on the N, I'm really rethinking the two solid lines and the one thin line. Looks strange to me. So I'm guessing that I form my letters. I should do an up and then a down and then an up and widen only the downstroke. I don't usually fill it in with pencil. I usually only come back and fill it in once I'm using my microns, but just so you can get maybe a clearer picture of that. And this one's pretty thick, even though it's just one line. So sometimes we have to alter how we make the letter, or you can play around with it just to suit your liking. Another way you can do this, instead of using curved lines, you can use straight lines. So let's come back to our Y and our O. So using a straight line on an O would look something like this. still on the downstroke side, but just using a straight line. And for our Y, it would look like this. So that just gives you another look to play around with too. Full S's are probably one of the trickiest letters because of the fact that it's changing direction so many times. It's going up, it's coming down, it's going straight across, it's going down. So I have to get to the top where I start my descent. I'm going to go there. Where it starts evening out, I'm going to quit. Where it starts going downhill again, I'm going to start again. If you curl the tail around and have a section going down again, you would want to do that. S's can also be done with the straight lines, and that's going to look like this. Straight line, straight line. You can see quickly here if I do a section of alphabet. Some of them will have 2, some of them will have 1, but the S is the only one that has it split on either side. You can opt to just do it on one side as well. Only on the tails, for instance. Or only on the rounds. Or a variation. It's really up to you to play around with what you want to do. But you see how it just takes your regular handwriting to a whole nother level. And the thing about lettering is that it's mostly a matter of just slowing down and maybe practicing a little with your own handwriting. I find myself kind of doodling letters when I'm sitting and listening and not taking notes to something. And that's what's helped me. And then if you really like the shape of a letter, like this is the way I typically make an A, but if you really like this shape of an A, try the next time you write your grocery list to make your A's all this way. If you prefer to start learning how to do this funny little G, start writing all your G's that way for one shopping list. So you see, working it into your regular everyday routine will help you to get better at lettering. Actually, maybe what I'll do is go ahead and ink them. Then I can take my kneadable art eraser once my ink is completely dry, and I can erase all the pencil marks. When you're erasing on a Bible page with a kneadable eraser, you want to be very careful. Here I have one of my demonstration dictionary pages. If I'm erasing on Bible pages that are very thin and this kneadable eraser has a lot of texture and grip to it, and so it will tend to want to grab your paper and crumple it up. So I really try and hold firmly on either side of what I'm erasing and erase away from the binding. So if this was where the Bible was open and this was where the line was in the middle of the book, open book, I would want to erase away from the center of the book and all in one direction and holding, you know, because if, watch, I'm going to go ahead and go back and forth now and see how it will grab the paper and just wrinkle it up. And that's no fun. So all one direction, away from the center of the binding, and holding the paper firm with your other hand. So now I'll take my twistable Crayola pencil and just fill this in for you. So there you go. I hope you'll have some fun with some faux calligraphy.